we are diving into a post-Memorial Day, very real conversation about dating high-value men and the trade-off between that and finding love, right? Is there really a war between the two choices? I've listened to countless video upon video after video after video after video about dating high-value men and how we need to stop marrying for love. And that's an excellent point, actually, right? Why? Because marriage for quite some time has been a very sound decision that people make with economics in mind. My parents did it. Your parents might have done it. Might have. And it's just something that's been historically a part of marriage. That's why they have prenuptials and, people take into account what career you have. It's a sound argument. By the way, like, subscribe, comment, because this is going to get a little heavy. Now, I'm all for that argument of looking into and making sure that a lot of things are in place when it comes to looking for a mate, something that we're not taught to do, something that, especially with our phenotype, right? Warning, disclaimer, I'm totally casual. Like, I'm in a t-shirt. I understand that the femininity police is going to come after me, but the conversation is deep enough for us to actually listen to the content and focus on the message, right? Like, we all know I can get sexy. I've proven that a million times. The point is, okay, historically, marriage has been literally first and foremost economics. It's true. That particular argument can't be argued with if you look into history, if you do a little bit of homework, right? In certain Eastern cultures, a woman's family had to offer a dowry or something of those sorts, right? A dowry, or perhaps a mule or something of value in exchange for this man's daughter. And that's how it always was. Now, we all know that not all aspects of culture are good. Otherwise, we wouldn't be fighting so hard to be heard, to say what we need to say, to have more voices, to go to school, to work, right? Now, we're not femininity buffs, but we know that not all aspects, of culture are to be desired. Some things you can do away with, right? And colorism, racism, those things are very much a part of culture historically as well. Yes. Women being a virgin when they get married, right? That was you could literally be flogged or killed if they found that you weren't a virgin on your wedding day. What else? There's so many different women marrying men and men only marrying women. That was the fabric of culture. That was a given as well. LGBT, RQ, ABC. I don't know what the updates are, but relationships are changing. Culture is changing. I do not believe in struggle love. I'm going to put that out there right now because I could already hear the collective consciousness going nuts. While I love and I agree with the sound argument that economics is very, very, very principal in choosing who you're going to marry, I think that struggle love is bold. I don't feel like we're supposed to get together and a woman's supposed to suffer because some guy has potential and stay with him for years and years, build him up only for him to walk out the door. Not to say that doesn't, not happen sometimes. Just a few rare instances where a girl or a woman, or vice versa, builds someone up and is there when he has nothing, and then he has something and they stay together and flourish. I've heard of that happening, but more times than not, what's coming to mind is my own family. I have a married pair of cousins where she was exactly that, with a man from the time he was renting a room, a very small room. I don't remember whether it was Brooklyn or Queens, but he had nothing. And they dated and he built this brand, this champagne brand. The champagne brand, I'm going to name it nameless just for their privacy. so that you don't know who the couple is. But their champagne did very well. Okay, the husband whom she stayed with when he had nothing, he built a champagne brand, and he marketed and marketed and marketed. Mind you, he's a very good socialite, very good business person, but he, you know, developed this idea while with my cousin, and it caught like wildfire. They had casinos and rich people and famous people drinking their champagne. There's proof of it all over Instagram, my cousins. So they also had some huge contracts, and I could see sometimes the husband would get, well, he was terrible with money, but he would get ridiculous contracts. He might have $100,000 one day, and by Monday, the money was gone. Like he'd have it on Friday, and by Monday it was gone. Only because he was terrible with money. But that's besides the point. The point is they would make that money. But they had money issues because they were management of money issues, and there was the fact that all the attention from celebrities and that kind of life, it interrupted their relationship a great deal. There'd be days and weeks where he wouldn't come home for days and days. I know because she'd call me, right, to babysit or to assist during that time. And long story short, I don't want to tell you every aspect of their relationship, but they knew celebrities, my cousins, and their champagne brand to this day gets, not as many contracts, but it gets orders and it gets recognition all over the world because it's a luxury champagne brand. That being said, somewhere along the way, don't know when this started, whether it's the lifestyle of being very, very close to all types of celebrities, but the husband developed a sex addiction. Now, sex addiction, which we need to do a separate conversation on because I feel like a lot of people are not comfortable talking about sex addiction. It's something that affects men and women, and it's a very real thing. It's just like having alcohol addiction or drug addiction, any other addiction. Sex addiction is real. He developed that. Why? Because every time he'd go missing, it was this woman to that woman to the other woman. It wasn't even the fact that he drank champagne a lot. I mean, they have a champagne brand. He's going to drink a lot. She wasn't sure whether it was the champagne or the alcoholism or the sex addiction, which was worse. But he was drinking wine when they met, and it wasn't something that was out of hand. The wine might have been suppressing other things. He had a very curious nuclear childhood, and you could see where he had a lot of undealt with things, drastic need for attention and admiration. There were slight narcissistic qualities, but I do not want to go into narcissism because I feel like it's a real thing. Don't get me wrong. Narcissism is no joke. It's real. There are enough narcissistic intel for us to, I'll leave a link to what narcissism is. We know what narcissist is for the most part. I've seen some of those qualities. His particular issue is deeper than that, but part of his problem is just having an insatiable, unruly appetite for women and more women. Now, he was a family man, though. He wanted his wife to be there. He never asked for a divorce. He didn't want a divorce. He did say some cruel things about her appearance and, how she looks sometimes. And I heard him verbally tear into her when he was drunk. And so I witnessed a lot of their dysfunction, which was one of the reasons I no longer babysit for them. Although she might not know specifically. But that's why I kind of didn't want to keep witnessing that, even though I'm an adult. He also had a slight expectation that us being women, that we would kind of let him lead the way and we'd believe everything he said. But I didn't really like what he would say about my cousin in her absence. Like, I mean, she's my cousin. Yeah, you're my cousin too through marriage, but I'm not going to stab my cousin in the back for you. Right? I wouldn't know you if it wasn't for my cousin. So I had my loyalties to her, and I didn't like the fact that he would kind of throw her under the bus. So I started to see through a lot of things, but the sex addiction stood out particularly because it was tearing her apart. That these women, they weren't just wanting a one night stand with him. They were falling in love with him. They were wanting, him to get a divorce with my cousin, and they were getting obsessed. He's an attractive man, and he's a good businessman with a champagne brand. And so now His sex addiction was now becoming a potential dangerous situation if there's the wrong woman who's, gets obsessed with having, right, her husband. That's problematic if you're running around with everyone. And this is not a judgment. I don't judge people in any way. But I know that it became a safety issue. I know that this man had absolutely nothing when they first met. And suddenly couldn't stand to look at her, and she was not fixing her hair, and he had every complaint in the book to justify his flying around the country, right, and always ending up in some woman's, bed, quote unquote. Fast forward. They eventually separated. They might even be officially divorced. She keeps her life private. I don't know what the status is. I don't think she's very proud of what's going on. She's fighting for a marriage. Or she was fighting, the last I checked. But I know that they're legally separated. A man that she built. Not single-handedly, but she was there as a huge soul supporter for this man from the time he had nothing until the time he had a lot of something. Okay? Classic builder bear. Can't stay home for nothing. Couldn't pay him to stay home. Got all this money. Any type of woman he wants to. And you don't see him for days. The verbal The verbal abuse. The entitlement. The arrogant. Borderline narcissism. And eventually he leaves. They were in love when they got married. She built him from nothing to something, or helped to build him, right? Because he was a smart guy. But she supported him. So they went from struggle to non-struggle. They're on their way to divorce. And so I understand the issues with being a builder bear. That doesn't guarantee you security. You are investing a lot of energy, a lot of time with no guarantees. Right? With the chance that you could do all that building, and the minute all that bank is available, what is to say that he's going to want to share that bank with you, even though you're the one who helped build him? Now, we're not saying everyone has to be perfect when you meet them, and although you want to have some basic things already. Like I told you in my course, I shared with you that I actually let someone go. And I told him I needed him to go out and do the things that I know he could do, but I wanted to see that he could do it without me. And I was feeling unsteady in whether he was sort of relying on me. Now, he wasn't fully, don't get me wrong, he wasn't like a total mama's boy, but he did move from his mother's house to me. There was never a time where he was living on his own. Or so he told me. I don't know. This is what he says. Or I met him when he was living with his mom and he was living with me. And it's like, and I saw some things, and it could be because, black mothers spoil their sons like crazy. And I could have seen some remnants of that, but I felt like I kind of want to see him do his man thing for a little while, without me doting him or constantly trying to tell him do this and do that or play the mommy role. I didn't want that. I wanted to feel like an equal, and I wanted him to come with me with all his respect. And I felt like I was tearing that away, trying to build him like a mommy. It just felt weird for me, right? And I didn't want a son that I didn't give birth to. So I saw so much potential in him. And I knew that he loved me a lot. He did. Which is why when I told him that I wanted us to take a break, that's how I said it. I intended then to get back together with him. It didn't work out that way. We're still best friends. But I don't regret the decision I made. A lot of lessons came from that. I knew what I was doing. And I think that if we stayed together, I don't think we would have made it anyway. Not us being together at the levels that we were. I wasn't way more mature than him, but there was definitely a mommy son dynamic that I didn't want. No, no, no. Okay. I'm not raising a being that I didn't push out. We're not doing that. But there's a guy, I think I should put the link in. There's a guy who talks about that mother-son dynamic where droves of women actually treat their husbands like their son. I've seen this before my eyes over and over and over again. Sometimes it's because their father wasn't there. Sometimes it's because their husband's no longer there. It's a lot of different things that happen when we try to make our sons grow up faster, right, than natural so that they could be our husband's son. That's another problem, right? When your son is your son, he doesn't need to be your husband, and your husband's your husband, he's not your son. There's these lines that are blurred with a lot of women in our community. Like, your man is your equal. And so I'm conscious of that. And I try to be conscious when I'm speaking to my mate or my partner or whatever, that I'm not speaking to him like he's my son, right? Because men hate that, first of all. Some men don't mind, but, you know, real masculine men, no. They're not trying to hear that. And I didn't want to become that, because I'd seen a lot of women comfortably pull their man around, whether by their braid or their ear, happily give them rules. You can't talk to this one, and I don't want you talking to that one. And like, if he can't figure out on his own that he shouldn't be constantly talking to, you know, someone other than you, or at least let you know, right? Because I'm not big on rules, but I feel like I want my guy to naturally have a balance, because he'd rather be spending that majority of that time with me. I'm big on wanting to be in the relationship. I'm big on wanting a thing. If you rather spend more of your time with another female, I want the truth of that. I don't want to have to tell you, you need to be talking to me more. If I tell you that, then I acknowledge that for whatever reason you choose not to spend, you know, the majority of your time with me. Ding, 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 ding. That's information. There's something not happening here. So instead of trying to control you and tell you not to talk to this one and not to talk to that one, why don't I just find someone who doesn't want to talk to every Tom, Tina, and Teresa? Right? I had to learn this. Trust me. I've been on every level of it. I know about, you know, that need or that tendency to try to be possessive and place rules on your partner. They hate that just as much as we hate when our parents do that, or when our parents did that, right? The natural law of psychology rebels from that. So your man is not your son. Your son is not your husband. And when you meet someone, if you immediately have a plan of turning them into the man you want them to be, one, that's a lot of work. You've got a new part-time job. And if you can guarantee or you really feel like there's a good chance he'll stay, go for it. But there's a huge risk in that. That only ends in bitterness. That being said, we started off talking about marrying for love or marrying for money. So while I do not agree that everything in our culture benefits us, there's an importance to taking the economics seriously and taking things that benefit you when all is said and done and all the illusions and the love and the fantasies are gone, right? To support you and that person. That's a given. That's real life. Does it always oppose marrying for love, right? Why are they here? And I don't like using celebrities, but you use your own example. Don't you know a couple who have a great deal of money and actually love each other, right? Maybe not in a fairy tale way, but there's a great deal of apathy and love for each other, and they have tons of money. I'm thinking of two couples right now. Okay, my goal is not to name drop in this video. That they clearly love each other or have a deep apathy, right, and mutual love and friendship, and they've got all the money they need. Why aren't we striving for both? Of course, granted, that is more rare. That's not going to happen every minute where you're going to have love near, a high value man, but it exists, right? Why aren't we talking about trying to put that ideal in our mind? Because it is an ideal to always want to catch a high value man, whatever that is, right? We generally know that it's someone who makes a great deal of a living, right? Maybe not a millionaire, but he's got, right, a nice foundation financially. Okay, well, if that's an ideal, so is an ideal of having that kind of man truly respect and have a love for you that's genuine, mutual, right? Or at least be on the best friend level. It doesn't have to be total opposite, because then you're just training people how to recruit people to, have a man like that fall in love with you. There's no love. And then what? So now you're just pretending to love him every day. Whew, that's a lot of work. All I keep seeing is work. It's possible. I've seen women do it. But there is the option of striving for both as much as possible, right? Maybe not a millionaire, someone who makes six figures, and you guys have a blast together. You're complementary, right? Maybe you guys mean that when you say look for a high value man. Maybe you're implying that you also really like them. But I think it needs to be talked about more. It doesn't have to be high value man versus marrying for love, right? Why don't we look for men who bring the world together as much as possible? That's my offering to this whole conversation of high value man, marry for love, marry for, a lot of money. Look for both as much as possible, right? It's just a suggestion. That's all I have to offer. What this community and what this world needs much more of, above all things, I think, is personal healing on a whole nother level. And the more healers, the better. The more people having the same conversation, the better. I never feel like there's an oversaturation of folks dealing with healing, coupling issues, right? Why couples are breaking up, which they're breaking up at a rapid rate. I personally believe, and I offer, and I will keep offering, that it's because a lot of us are walking trauma cases and we're not dealing with it. We're starting to, right? We are definitely starting to, and that's good news. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next one.